Welcome to A Kind Life. Today I'm very grateful to have my friend Trikky here, also known as Richard Oglesby. How you going, Trikky?
I'm good, thank you, Alicia.
That's good. So for people, I'd love for them to know Trikky. So we actually met a couple of years ago now at an Anonymous for the Voiceless Cube of Truth in Melbourne, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. But I'm very grateful to know you and have met you, and I'm always inspired by what you do. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Alicia.
So tell us, Trikky, a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Richard Oglesby, and it was my son-in-law who, when he was setting up my Facebook page, gave me the name Trikky Oges. Trikky being Richard and Oges being my nickname. So that's how that come about. And I come from the agricultural industries and seen a lot of things that we all know, but I've seen a lot of things that probably people don't know. I worked in shearing sheds, starting from Burke in outback New South Wales and west from there. And the shearers aren't very kind to animals, beating, kicking, throwing them out the door. But the worst thing I've seen was the sheep, 30, 40 degrees in degrees, and they're in these holding yards and in the shed for hours without water. That is pretty standard. And I don't know how the sheep sort of, for that length of time, that they don't suffer more than what they do at the hands of the shearers. And then for a while there, I worked as a zookeeper at the Adelaide Zoo in Adelaide, where I worked with both exotic and native animals. And one of the things I did notice when I worked there was in the caged animals, like polar bears, lions, tigers, and that sort of thing, the concrete had paths where the animals are walking up and down the one path, totally bored, and they just worn big grooves in the concrete. It's crazy. And this led once with a tiger. I hand-reared a tiger when I was at Adelaide Zoo because the mother was so bored and so frustrated that she ate the other three. And terrible. So we saved one out of four. And, but even today, this still happens with the caged animals, the total boredom. And they do self-harm, they do all sorts of things. But one of the jobs I did like, but looking upon it now, I look at it a completely different way, but at the time I liked it. I worked at one of Victoria's top cattle studs, employed as a groom, and that was mainly looking after the show bulls. Now, you see a show bull at the show ring and people have this fantasy that, oh, what a pampered animal. But that's far from the truth. Right from the very start, they all these things happen to them. They have a ring put in their nose. That is only one reason that that ring is in the nose is to control the bull. So they put a lead on the ring, and if you pull on that ring, it's total pain to the animal. And there's tied up for hours, to learn to. Because at the show, they sitting in stalls, as you see. You've seen them at the show. So that's all a part of their training. But the worst thing, and when I admit I was a part of this, the insemination. Bulls, the bulls, they go through and they collect the semen from bulls or import the semen from other studs. And then the A-team, they used to call them, and that is purely cosmetic. It's the look of the stud. So these cows are then inseminated, but this is what a lot of people don't know. After a little short time, the fertilized eggs, some of those eggs are removed from that show team. That from the A team, and they're put into the donor cows. Now, this is for only one reason. That good-looking cow now has 4 calves, and that's just for the look of the product. We might produce another champion show bull because you got 4 chances instead of 1. And the only reason that these stud show bulls is to win win ribbons. That ribbon and the more procedures that they, the more ribbons they win, the more procedures the ribbon, the higher the bull price. That's how. So that means the stud bulls and what cows they do sell. Well, they don't sell many cows, but they do sell some of the 18 cows. Is a higher price. Now, all these other ones, the male calves, are straight away desexed. They just, it's not part. There's no pain relief. There's no enough. They just cut them, and it's terrible. And the heifer calves, which are the females, they go into one bunch, and they're sold off not under the stud name, but under another name, because the stud don't want you to see what they call the ugly ones. They don't fit the profile of the stud. So after leaving that, I then was a contractor around all different parts around here in Lancefield, with mainly sheep and cattle and equestrian horses. And equestrian horses, they don't live a good life either. You know, they're whipped and to do what they have to do, whether it's jumping or dancing or... So that is about my past. I'm now a vegan activist, so I've come around 360 from those days.
Yeah, you absolutely have, Trikky, and that's it. I was very surprised to learn this part of your story because, you know, I've only ever known you as a vegan activist. So when you mentioned these things to me, I was so surprised. How old were you when you started in the animal agriculture industry?
Oh, in my 20s.
Yeah. And how long and what sort of age did you end that?
In my 60s.
Wow.
That's when I went to Edgar's.
So that's the majority of your life. You were part of exactly what you're now trying to stop and educate people about. That
is right. Yes. I'm a late bloomer.
What got you interested in zookeeping, Trikky? Because that is such a change from, you know, farmed animals. How did you get into zookeeping?
Accidentally. I went to Adelaide and there was a job going rebuilding some part of the zoo. So I went just as a general hand. And what happens is one zookeeper got badly injured. He got mauled by a mountain goat. And all of a sudden they were looking for another zookeeper. And I was on site, so I took it on.
Wow. And how long were you at Adelaide Zoo for?
7 years.
Yeah, you've had such a diverse experience across all the different parts of, you know, the industries that now vegans and activists are trying to put a stop to. So
yes,
tell us how you changed from going. Tell us that part of your story.
Right, I met Pam Ahern, the founder and director of Edgar's Mission. I met her at a local, of all places, a local farmers market. And we had a bit of a chat, and she invited me to come and join her team. This is in May 2015. And I didn't know this was going to change my life. And I'm so grateful for inviting me on. Yeah, so I drove through Edgar's Gates. It was just this swarm peonies I drove in, and I'd never experienced that before, and it was magic. So as I was walking in, the first animal I met was this Suffolk sheep in a cart with wheels, and she come running towards me, and I noticed that her back legs weren't functioning properly, and that's why she was in the cart. Her name was Saturday, and she was so gorgeous. But after starting around the sanctuary, I noticed that there was quite a few animals with special needs, like a three-legged cow, and you know, and things like that. So all these animals had these amazing stories of survival and will to live. And for the first time in my life, I was starting to think about my food choices. I'd never done that before. So I had to have a think about this. And the crew at Edgar's was terrific to try and help me. I couldn't have been in a better place to change my lifestyle. So I virtually went vegetarian straight away. So I went, but I was still eating eggs, cheese, and honey. So, but this, I was like that until 2018. That was my New Year's resolution, was to become vegan. So that's how I got vegan.
And so, Trikky, how did you, I guess for someone who'd never probably even heard of vegan or considered it, like, was it just the influence of these beautiful people around you?
Yes, yeah. Or they were encouraging me. These people, the crew at Edgar's, from Pam all the way down, encouraged me. You know, like, some of the girls were giving me recipes. Some of the girls were giving me food. You know what I mean? It was really good. So yeah. So I become a vegan, and my health checks, you know, backed all this up, how good a vegan life is.
And so that was about 4 years ago, is that right? 2018?
Yeah, New Year's Eve. That was my resolution for the year 2018.
That's amazing. And what age were you then, Trikky, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 68. Oh, sorry, no, sorry, I was 68 when I went vegetarian.
Yeah.
And of course, in my 70s when I went vegan.
And it's so impressive, Trikky, because a lot of people, you would have heard them yourself say that, you know, people say things like, I'm too old to change, or, you know, what's the point? So what would you say to people like that?
I say it's never too late to change. That is what I use and what I say to them. And I put myself, I tell the people, I was in my 60s when I went vegetarian and 70s when I went vegan.
And I'm guessing you share a lot of that knowledge. So tell us about, you know, you decided at some point that just being vegan wasn't enough, that you wanted to spread that message.
Yes. In fact, it was Ruth Paramore who was encouraged me to come down to a Save Movement rally. And then one day she said, oh, look, the guest speaker at this rally on the weekend is Pam Ahern. And of course, I'd never seen Pam speak before. So I went down to see her talk at this rally. So I went down there and I held the sign and listening to all the speakers, and I thought, this is the extension of being a vegan. Like, this is the next step on. So after that, I just went to an odd rally here and there, just holding a sign. Then one day in South Bank, I'm walking back to my car. I've been in the city. It was bit before Christmas. And I come across these people wearing masks, holding TVs. And I was so curious. And one of the volunteers come up to ask me, and I said, what is this? And she said, this is Voices for the Anonymous. And I said, so she took me she took me around all the TVs and she showed me all this graphic stuff on these TV screens. And I was shocked. In fact, I was gutted in the stomach. I felt sick after watching, well, you know what's on there. All this animal exploitation, you know, what happens in the slaughterhouses, what happens, you know, in places like the free-range chickens. It made me sick. And I went away and it played on my mind for ages. It just kept playing over and over and over. And I thought, this is my calling. I knew this is it. This is my calling. I have to go back and see these people. So I found out they were in Burke Street in the city. And I attended my first thing, just holding the screen. And from there, it just grew. And I thought, yeah, these are my people. All these amazing, to stand shoulder on shoulder with these people, as you know, Alicia, it's just amazing to stand as one. And I thought, yeah, these are my people. This is my tribe. So I become a regular member, and more lately, a member of you in Geelong.
Yeah.
So for quite a while, all I did was hold the TV. I was too scared to outreach. But James, he encouraged me, you know, to just listen, just stand next to someone and listen, and that's what I did. And I had a bit of confidence to then outreach. I had a bad experience and it shook me. a troll, as we call her, who abused me. And, why did they do this? You know, so after a bit of confidence, I started outreaching to people. But then it brought me into other groups. And now it gave me confidence to go to other groups and do things, to go to a slaughterhouse vigil. I went to a slaughterhouse vigil, and that's the saddest thing I've ever experienced in my life. The looks on their face, there was a pig vigil. And the pigs you could see the fear in the pigs' faces in this truck as it stopped outside the slaughterhouse. And they were crying like anything. And I was, oh my gosh, you know. And this all led me to do what I do today, and that is as a regular of AV, Anonymous for the Voiceless, I want to do as much as I can with all the other groups within the animal rights movement. You know, so that's what I do today.
Yeah, and we're very grateful for you, Trikky, because not only do you go to Melbourne, you also come all the way to Geelong, which is quite a trek for yourself. It's not you don't live close to us, and we're very grateful for your support.
No, my pleasure, Alicia, my pleasure. I just love standing with all you people. It's like a family. You know, we go out to dinner together after events, and you get to know the people personally, and it becomes like a family. And we're all here for the same reason. We're all here to try and help our animal friends. We're all here to try and stop the exploitation of animals. We're all here to try and stop the harm. We're here to stop, as we see the little calves stolen from their mothers for milk, you know, for the milk industry. That's what we're here for, to stand with everyone gives me the pleasure.
Do you think, Trikky, that, you know, when you worked in these industries, you just didn't kind of make that connection? Because you say that now when you stand at cubes, you know, it makes you quite upset, or at vigils, to see these animals going to their death. Do you think you were just disconnected from that?
Once the animal left the property, I never give it a thought. You know what I mean? On the property, you have the animals and you work with the animals. You're trying to care the best you can for the animals, and then they go off. You know where they're gone. They've gone to slaughter. Every farm animal. That's where except the lucky few that end up in a place like Edgar's here, you know, a place of kindness and a forever home. Most animals just go to slaughter. So, but I never thought about it. It's just that, you know, they left the farm. It wasn't, you know, not our problem anymore, if you get what I mean. That's how I thought.
Yeah. And so tell us about some of the things you've learnt at Edgar's mission. I'm guessing, like you said, you've come across some beautiful animals.
What I've learned at Edgar's mission is one thing: kindness. That's the one thing that Edgar's stands for, this kindness. And yeah, it's just taught me totally to think entirely different. Yes, animals, and as you see on some of the animals that appear on TV and newspapers and that, they come with a story, and it's taught me that, like, animal wants to live. They want to live. I mean, they come through some of this horrible stuff, and some of them have got so tragic, but their will to live is so strong. And I work with the most beautiful people. I mean, their dedication, their thing for, and their love for animals is, you know, it just makes you feel so good. I feel proud to be a member of Edgar's.
Yeah, and I think they're very lucky to have you as well, Trikky. I've seen, you know, they've once told your story on their social media about how, you know, you came in as a bit of a handyman and you've ended up being vegan with some of your besties there. Yes,
yeah. Steady Eddie, he's a goat, and yeah, he raids my, when I'm distributing, loading up food at the main centre. He comes and tries and pinches it. But we have a couple other goats like that as well. Like, but don't you like the cheeky ones? The ones that are a bit, you know, the ones that challenge you a little bit. You love them the most.
Exactly. They've met their match, Trikky.
I know. You know, well, it's like Eddie. Eddie finds it difficult to walk. He stumbles, and I open that hay shed door, then all of a sudden he can run. I want to get into that hay shed. I want to get into that hay shed while I can, and get into the good stuff, not just the stuff I'm given.
Exactly. And I guess, Trikky, like, what would you say in terms of, you know, being vegan? What would you say you love most about being vegan? I know there's lots of things.
Well, the best thing about being a vegan is that we do not contribute to the animal suffering anymore in our food choices. The exploitation of these animals, you know, the calves that are stolen from their mothers, and we're not drinking their milk anymore. You know, all this is the main reason why I love being a vegan. The second reason is the health benefits. Since I've been at Edgar's, my health checks each year have just got better and better and better. And my last one only a few months ago was the best results I've ever had. You know, so that's been a vegan. But I have a clear conscience now, Alicia. I have a clear conscience now that that I can't save a lot of animals, but I might be able to save a few with, you know what I mean? I can't save them all, but by not eating meat, I think I contribute that I'm not, there's going to some I'm going to save because I'm not eating them anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, you know, do you find that people, when you meet people in outreach and, you know, at cubes and things, do you find that, you know, having that difference in, you know, your experience in life and also your age, do you think that's a positive thing? Do people respond well to what you're explaining?
Well, I think, like at the Cube of Truth in Melbourne, we have young teen girls up to my, or even Linda, who is older than me, And so it's this diverse lot of people. It's, you know what I mean? And I feel that I contribute because I'm at the other end. You know, there's a lot of young people within the activist movement, but I'm at the other end. And I think I show another perspective of what people think a vegan is. A lot of people think a vegan is a university student who's got no brains. You know what I mean? But yes. I think I show that there is a diversity. That's not a vegan.
No, exactly right.
You know, and what they think.
Would you have any advice for activists? Like, I know you've had a few years' experience now.
My advice for any activist is to do what you're comfortable doing. If you just want to hold a sign, that's fine. If you don't want to outreach, well, that's fine. If you don't want to go to a vigil at a slaughterhouse, that's fine. Whatever role you want to play is important, because we all stand as one. We all stand shoulder to shoulder as one to stand up for the animals. We all stand up as one to try and stop exploitation. We all stand as one, just to try and give an animal a better life. I found that I had incredible help when I was a young actor, young in just joining. I meant, young in the movement. The people around you help you. James at the Cube, he was so patient with me. No, I don't want to outreach. I don't want to outreach. But he was so patient. Just take your time. You know what I mean? That's what he done for me. And when I had a bit of confidence, I started outreaching, and he backed me all the way. He was behind, like Paul and the Soul. When they were at the Cube in Melbourne, I learned so much from Paul and the Soul that I found them amazing. So we all learn from each other. That's,
I'm so surprised that you say, that you were nervous about outreach, because, I only know you to be such a strong outreacher. So I think it's a real credit to you, continuing to learn and try.
Well, I only learned by listening to others who are more experienced than me and better at it than me. So it was just learning and learning. And I'm still learning, Alicia. Every now and then, someone gives you a curveball and you don't know what to do. In your head, you're going crazy because someone's just giving you this little curveball and taking you off the track. and then, like, I do a lot of work with the Save movement as well, with people like Helen Suffolk. She taught me a lot to, how to act and how to not be aggressive, how to, to keep calm under, you know what I mean? That's what outreaching is about, is keeping control, not being upset by the ones who are abusing you and, you know what I mean?
So, Trikky, is there anything that you hope to do in the next few years, whether it be vegan related or another life goal?
I would like to expand by going probably into doing something in the state or something like that, and learning more, learning better ways to do what I do, because we all keep learning, Alicia. Each event is different, because you have young teens coming up. Some are very receptive to you, others aren't. Sometimes you have a farmer come along, so it's a different. Each conversation is different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, Trikky, if anyone has any questions for you or wants to reach out, if they wanted to know more about what you do, I know you're very good. I'm very impressed. You're on social media. You're both on Facebook and Instagram, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So are you happy, Trikky, if I share those links in the show notes in case anyone wants to reach out and ask you a question?
Yes. Look, I'm here to do what I can about the whole movement of animal rights. So whether it's sharing, whether it's going to here or there or whatever, I'm quite happy to do my bit.
Yeah, and we appreciate that, Trikky. We're very lucky to have you in our movement.
Yeah, thank you.
And so, Trikky, before we finish up, is there anything we might have missed that you wanted to mention?
Oh, no, just to thank you, Alicia, to give me the chance to do this. I was very nervous and very, you might say, at first. And then the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to do it. I wanted to share my little story, what I've been through, what I've seen. No, thank you, Alicia.
No, well, I'm very grateful, Trikky, because I think, you have so much experience and knowledge to share. And like you said, you've come the full 360. You're a totally different person. And I think that's such an inspiration to other people. So thank you for being brave enough to be here today. And yeah, I'm sure other people will be very inspired by what you've done.
Well, thank you.
And do you have a favourite quote that you would like to share with the listeners?
Yes, I do. It's the one I wear on my jumper every day here at Edgar's. And I think a lot of people have seen this quote, and it's, if we could live happy and healthy lives without harming others, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, and I can only imagine you're now living proof of that. So thank you so much again, Trikky. It's been a real pleasure.
Right, thank you, Alicia. Bye.